Imagine a world without noise, where the soft hum of a mother's voice was a shield against the unknown. Discover the calming evolution of ancient lullabies, from their surprisingly dark origins to their powerful cultural significance. Isn't just history, it's a timeless journey to tranquility. Asterisk, the night is silent, a velvet hush blankets the world. Above, stars gather like ancient watchers, peeking through the folds of a midnight sky. Their light doesn't flicker, no, it pulses gently, rhythmically, like the soft breath of a sleeping child. Somewhere far off in the distance, water laps against the bank of a forgotten river. It sounds delicate, eternal, like a cradle song murmured by the earth itself. And in this tranquil stillness, a melody begins not of instruments or voice, but of something older. Much older. You are not in your bed anymore. You're lying on woven reeds, inside a small dwelling shaped like a dome, its walls coated in smooth, packed clay. The air smells of wood smoke and night-blooming flowers. There are no electric lights, no humming machines. Just you and the fire's last glowing embers. In the distance, a low hum. A woman's voice. She is singing, not for an audience. Not even for herself, but for the child at her breast. It is not a lullaby you would recognize. There are no words. Just a rising and falling sound like wind through hollowed stone or the whisper of leaves in a sacred grove. It is a sound made not to entertain but to protect, to seal a bubble around the child so that spirits, shadows, and nightmares pass quietly by. You are listening not with ears alone, but with some deeper, older part of you. What if the first lullaby was not born in a nursery, but in the wild, savage dark of a world where sleep was dangerous? Where predators sniffed the edge of firelight? Where silence invited unwanted guests? What if, long before Mozart or Brahms, the first lullaby was a chant sung to ward off wolves? What you're about to hear is not the history in textbooks. There are no dates to memorize, no bullet points to list. This is a boring history in the best possible way. Boring like rain tapping gently on a window. Boring like wind over wheat. Boring like the truth. Slow, deep, and ancient. Tonight, we will follow that song. We begin not in one place, but in many. The timeline of lullabies has no single origin. It rises like mist from 100,000 cradles, from voices long stilled, from songs hummed beside. Cooking fires, riverbanks, and temple steps. Let the fire crackle softly now in your imagination. Let the shadows curl at the edges of your vision. Let your breathing slow. The story is beginning. A cave in time thousands of years before the first stone city rose from the soil. There was a cave, not a famous one, not painted with beasts or gods. Just a shallow hollow in the side of a windswept hill. Inside a family. The mother, bone-tired from gathering roots and watching the horizon, leans against the wall. Her child, small and soft, wriggles on a pouch of furs. She begins to hum. Why? Perhaps because the child will not sleep, or perhaps because her mother did, and her mother's mother before that. The hum is low, repetitive. It has no name. It needs none. It is not music as we know it. It is vibration, safety, and memory. And out in the night, a rustle. A jackal pauses. Hears the sound too. Something in it recognizes the hum, not as a threat, but as a boundary. A sound that marks the line between wilderness and home. In that cave. The first lullaby may have been born not as art, but as instinct. It may have been less about beauty and more about survival, because long before language was written, sound could shape reality. Repetition could quiet fear. Rhythm could still the tremble of tiny limbs. In this cave, we do not know the words, but we feel the meaning. Sleep, little one. The dark is big, but you are safe. Sleep, little one. The fire still burns. A Sumerian whisper. Now let us drift forward, down the river of time, to the banks of the Euphrates. We are in Sumer, land of ziggurats and river reeds. It is early evening. The heat of the sun has retreated, and the breeze carries the smell of baked earth and barley dot inside a modest home of clay bricks. A woman grinds grain by hand. Her daughter lies on a mat nearby, swaddled tight, her small fists twitching in dreams. As the mother works, she begins to sing not loudly, but with quiet assurance that we know this because clay tablets were found, thousands of years later etched. In wedge-shaped lines, the first lullabies ever written down. Here is one translated. Little one, sleep. Do not cry. The house is clean. The goats are fed. The gods are watching. It is simple, not poetic by modern standards. But powerful dot, these lullabies were not only about sleep. They were spells, prayers, reinforcements against fear. In a world where disease came without warning and death visited often, a lullaby was a mother's only armor dot. As you listen now, imagine her voice, rough from sun and dust, but warm, reassuring. Sleep, the gods are watching. Imagine the comfort that gave. Even now, as you lie in your own bed, you can feel it, can't you? The idea that sleep is not a surrender, but a ceremony. Egypt. Songs beneath the lotus moon next. We journey along the Nile. The moon is rising over a village near Thebes. Papyrus rustles in the marsh. In a small home carved from mud brick, a lullaby is being sung. Egyptian lullabies, though few remain in written form, have echoes in the chants of the temple. Rhythm was sacred. Melody was memory. Even lullabies may have been sung in the same tones used to honor the gods. A priestess daughter might sing, "O child of Ra, close your eyes, for the boat of night carries you across the sky." Sleep was seen as travel, a voyage on a divine river, a small death that must be sweetened, protected. Imagine a lullaby that was not only for the child, but for the gods to hear. A reminder that this soul is precious, that it should return by morning. That's what the ancient world understood. Sleep was never just about rest. It was about trust. And so the melody lingers and lingers. The Nile fades behind you now, drifting like silk down a river of memory. The wind carries the scent of frankincense and the last notes of an Egyptian chant, like a ribbon unwinding across time. It is quiet once more, not empty, but full with. Listening. We follow the thread of ancient lullabies as it winds its way across the earth. From fertile crescent to fertile plains, the lullaby does not belong to one people. It is not a cultural artifact. It is a human one. Its voice is older than language, older than agriculture, perhaps older than fire. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe deeply. You are about to cross mountains. In the shadow of the Indus now. You find yourself in the low hum of the ancient Indus Valley, perhaps near the city of Mohenjo-Daro, where drainage systems once whispered of sophistication long before the world gave them credit. It is dusk. The air hangs with the scent of sweetmeat, the clatter of animals returning to their pens. Inside one of the many identical homes, flat-roofed and sturdier, mother kneels beside her child. Her hand strokes the baby's belly, round from milk. Her voice rises and falls like a river bird in slow flight. We do not have her song written. The script of the Indus remains undeciphered. But can you imagine the melody? Let us construct it from the sounds around her, the thump of pestle on millet, the hiss of oil on stone, the rustle of cotton wraps, the lowing of distant cattle, and, under it all, her hum, a language not spoken, but felt. It is likely the song bore resemblance to the lullabies sung today in that same region, rhythmic, repetitive, tied to natural cycles. Chanda mama dorka, puch kabeoj. The moon uncle is far away. When will you return? This modern line echoes a question perhaps whispered millennia ago in another tongue when will the light return? When will morning come? When will the world be safe again? The lullaby here, as elsewhere, became the bridge across the dangerous hours of the dark, a bridge made of breath, the hum beneath the steps we move again. Not south, not west, but north, across scrubland and wildflowers, into the endless sky of the Eurasian steppes. A yurt glows in the distance. Its felt walls insulate the laughter inside. There is singing, but not the kind you might think. Step. Inside, there are no cribs here. No toys. Just blankets, the scent of milk and wool. A child lies on her father's chest, and he is singing not to entertain, but to preserve. H-U umlaut, you umlaut, who umlaut, who. The wind brings sleep. In Mongolia, ancient lullabies were passed through fathers as much as mothers. Sung in deep, resonant tones, they mimicked the sound of the wind, of hooves, of the earth itself breathing beneath the hoarfrost. These were not lullabies to pacify, but to protect, to teach the child the voice of the world. So they would grow into it without fear. Later generations would call it Urtian Du'u, the long song, a lullaby that echoes like a horizon with no end. Even now, as you lie still, imagine that endless wind brushing your face, as if the very sky were humming you to sleep. China, cradle songs beneath jade skies next. We float east into the heartlands of ancient China, where lullabies were as much about harmony as they were about slumber. A bamboo flute sounds softly in the distance. Lanterns flicker under a blossoming plum tree. Inside a modest wooden home, a grandmother rocks a cradle carved with dragons and clouds. Her voice is paper thin, but strong with memory. The Chinese character for lullaby, literally, means rocking cradle song, and that is what this is. A song of movement, of care, of rhythm and reassurance. She sings, "Sleep, child, the stars are listening. The crane flies high. The tiger sleeps, your ancestors guard the gate." The lullaby, here's more than music. It is an alignment. It connects the child not only to the mother, but to heaven and earth, to family and spirit, to the order of all things. In Taoist thought, harmony is peace. And what is sleep if not a return to balance? Now the grandmother smiles. The child breathes evenly. The song slows to a whisper, then becomes silence. But the melody lingers, doesn't it? Because all ancient lullabies do. They may be forgotten in the waking world, but in dreams they return. The language of lullabies. Pause now. Breathe again. You are not in any one time or place. You are in a space between, the space where lullabies live. What do they all share? They are simple, but not shallow. They are repetitive, but not mindless. They contain within them a secret. Repetition is soothing, not because it is boring, but because it is safe. The brain relaxes when it knows what comes next. The heartbeat slows to match the rhythm. The child sleeps, not because they are commanded to, but because their world makes sense, even today. Neurologists will tell you that rhythmic sound has the power to lull the brain into alpha and theta states, those liminal places between awareness and dreaming. But ancient mothers knew that without science. They had instinct, and instinct, we've learned, hums. Now. Let's step softly toward the Western world. Ancient Greece, a chorus of the hearth in a small village in Attica. Before Athens was marble and myth, a woman sings to the coals in her hearth. The baby in her arms stirs. She shifts her weight, adjusting her wrap. The fire is her companion, crackling softly in rhythm with her voice. The Greeks later developed myths, odes, and theater. But in the early days, there were lullabies whispered beneath olive branches. Often they were chants to specific deities, Hera for fertility, Hypnos for sleep, and even Hecate for protection in the dark. A reconstructed lullaby might have gone, Kleino, Tamasha, Morimo Glyco, the moon walks with you. The gods watch you grow. Close your eyes, my sweet baby. The ancient Greeks understood that children were closer to the divine. Their lullabies were not just to soothe, but to channel grace. A return to the question let us return to the question that opened this story. What if the first lullaby was not a gentle hum, but a chant, a protective circle of sound? The evidence says it was both. Protection and comfort were never separate things in the ancient world. A mother's voice was shield and balm, a father's hum a fence against fear. Even the wind, the water, the leaves, they all conspired to become lullabies in their own way. And now you hear them again. Let the hush of the cave return. Let the Sumerian mother whisper again. Let the Nile rise, the steppes hum, the mountains sing. Let China's stars listen, and Greece's hearth glow once more. The history of lullabies is not something you study. It's something you remember in your bones. It's not a timeline. It's a song line, and you followed it all the way here. Now, let your eyes grow heavier. You're safe. The song is not over, but it's time to rest. The world turns beneath you. Mountains pass like slow thoughts. Rivers like forgotten memories. You're not flying. You're floating buoyed on something unseen but deeply felt. A current of lullabies. They carry you as softly as a cradle carried by the tide toward distant lands where more ancient voices sing into the quiet of night. You do not see the faces of those who sing, but you feel them. And somehow, you know them. Africa, the cradle of sound. Before anything else, there was Africa. And before stories, before kings, before even fire came to stay, there were mothers. They wrapped their children in cloths made of bark, of grass, of wool. They sat beneath baobab trees, and they sang. Africa is often called the cradle of civilization. But perhaps more accurately, it is the cradle of song. The lullaby, as we imagine it today, was likely first breathed in these lands. There are no scrolls, no carved tablets, but there are echoes. And these echoes still live. In a small hut on the savannah, a woman rocks gently. Her voice begins low, deep in her chest, then rises like smoke. Namazana yam, lala ka cool ... pul. My little girl, sleep well. These words are modern Isekosa, but the rhythm, the sentiment, with soothing repetition, they go back countless generations. Across Africa, lullabies are rhythmic, often call and response, with slight changes each time a melody, always shifting, always adapting. Just like the culture that bore them, the lullaby here is not passive. It moves with the hips, with the hands. It dances while it sings, and often it warns as much as it soothes. A Yoruba lullaby from Nigeria might carry a message. Sleep, my child, sleep. If you cry, the lion will hear. If you sleep, the ancestors will smile. Not a threat, but a lesson. A lullaby is not only to bring comfort, it is to teach what the world is, what it needs from you. Here, music was the first classroom, and lullabies, the first teachers. So you drift now, carried on a drumbeat too low to hear, but too deep to forget. Aboriginal Australia, Dreamtime cradle songs next. You land not with a sound, but with a feeling on the red earth of the Australian continent. A place where the soil is older than many mountains, and the stories are older still. Here, lullabies are not merely to soothe the baby. They are to connect the child to the land, to the dream time, to the spirits of ancestors who walk beside the living in wind, water, and stone. In many Aboriginal groups, songlines are sacred mapped songs that trace the paths of creator beings across the land. A lullaby might include a portion of these lines, allowing even the youngest to feel part of the world's great weaving. A mother sings, "En Gaia, Gaia, baby mine, clouds walk the sky, stars watch your eye." Sleep near the gum tree, roots hold you tight. Emma watches, moon shines bright. You can almost hear the didgeridoo in the background, a low, vibrating sound like the earth itself breathing. It doesn't lull by melody, but by presence. It says, you are not alone. This land knows you. Sleep. There is no need for written language when the hills sing your ancestors' voices. And lullabies here are part of that inheritance. Even now, lying in your own bed, do you feel it? The weight of the sky above you, the hum of the ground beneath. You are held by something more than just gravity. You are remembered. Mesoamerica, songs under the sacred sea. Now the wind shifts again, and you are carried across oceans westward over the Pacific until the land rises to meet you in pyramids and forests, and hummingbirds and stone. You are in ancient Mesoamerica, the Maya, the Aztecs, the Olmec before them, civilizations rich in story and song and ritual. Here, lullabies may have been sung in Nahuatl or in the languages now lost to time. They would not have been merely for sleep, but for transformation. To sing a lullaby was to guide the soul of the child safely into the underworld of dreams, guarded by gods and sacred animals. In one reconstructed lullaby, a mother might sing, Shotso, little flower, close your petals now. The jaguar walks the night, but I hold you safe beneath the ceiba bough. The ceiba tree was sacred, a link between worlds. Its roots reached into Xibalba, the Maya underworld. Its branches held the heavens, and beneath it, children were often placed to sleep. In Aztec tradition, lullabies may have also referenced Tonantzin, the sacred mother goddess. Her name means our revered mother, and she was often invoked to bless and guard children. Oh, Tonantzin, carry his dreams. Let no wind chill him. Let no owl see him. Guide his spirit home by dawn. There is something hauntingly beautiful in these words, as if every night the child's spirit traveled far, and it was the lullaby that tethered them to home. Even in the dark, someone is singing for you. Even in sleep, you are protected. The Andes, songs in the thin air, let us move now. Higher still into the chill of the Andes, the stars here feel closer. The air is thin, like a whisper stretched across mountains. In a stone house nestled in the slopes, a Quechua mother hums. Her baby is wrapped in a manta and slung on her back. As she works cooking maize, the spinning thread, her voice never ceases. Wawa, Nina, Wawa Nina, sleep my fire child. The condor flies above. Her lullaby does not stop because work must go on. It blends into life, into labor, into breath. In many parts of the Andes, music was a way to sync the body to the altitude, to the work, to the gods. And lullabies sung from mother to child as she walks miles of cliff and trail are part of this rhythm. Sleep becomes not a pause in the journey, but the soft passage between two steps, a moment to gather strength, a chance to be cradled by the mountains themselves. The invisible thread, pause again, let the air fill your lungs, then drift out in slow surrender. The melody is quiet now, but not gone. It moves through you. You followed it from Africa to Australia, from the pyramids of the Nile to the temples of Mesoamerica, from fire to snow, from chant to hum to silence. And all of them, every single lullaby carried something more than melody. They carried love. A love so primal it didn't need words. A love so instinctive it turned into rhythm, into sound, into song. So tonight, as you lie here, eyes heavy, limbs soft, heart slowing, let the world's lullabies wrap around you like a warm shawl. Let them remind you that even in the ancient past, someone sang for someone like you, a baby, a soul, a sleeper. Now rest. Next part of the journey is dreaming. There is a fog now, not cold, not threatening. It hangs in the air like a curtain of sleep itself muted gray, filled with the smell of moss, birch, and smoke from a distant fire. Through the mist, a sound, not quite a song yet. Not quite a whisper, but something between. Something waiting to be heard. Let's follow it. The Slavic forests, cradle songs beneath the pines deep, in the endless woodlands of ancient Eastern Europe, where pines grow tall and foxes slip like phantoms. Between trunks, the Slavic people sang lullabies to the rhythm of nature's breath. The cradle was often made from wood hollowed by hand, swaddled with woven linen and placed close to the fire. But the true comfort came not from heat, but from voice. A Slavic mother wrapped in wool, her hair braided with small beads of bone and wood, bends over her child. She sings softly, but the words carry far beyond the room, because in these traditions, lullabies were half song, half spell. Bayu bayushki bai. Do not cry, little dove. A bear watches outside, but he fears our fire's glow. Here, the line between lullaby and protective chant was thin. The forest could be cruel wolves howled. Snow fell in silence, and spirits were believed to roam between trees. So the lullaby wasn't only for the child, it was a warning to the world. Sleep, my child, but dumb a voice sees. He guards our hearth, he walks the beams. The domovoi, the household spirit, was said to dwell in every Slavic home. And mothers would whisper lullabies that invoked his presence to keep the dark things at bay. It's here, in these quiet cabins surrounded by endless trees, that lullabies became incantations of protection. And in the rhythm of their songs, the trees themselves seem to sway a little softer, even now. As you lie still, you may feel the presence of those great forests. The way snow makes everything silent, the way silence becomes a cradle all its own. Sleep, little dove. The wind outside listens, but inside, there is only love. Norse lands, cradles beneath the aurora now. The air grows sharper, crisp, snow, crackles underfoot. You're walking across frozen earth now north, toward the Norse lands. Long before the sagas were written in runes, before Thor and Odin were etched into stone, mothers here sang to their babies beneath dancing lights. The aurora borealis, in Norse tradition, was not just a light, it was an omen. A sign from the gods, a ribbon pulled across the sky by unseen hands, and beneath that glowing veil, lullabies whispered through the dark. A Norse cradle might hang from the rafters by leather straps, swaying gently with the rhythm of the longhouse. The fire snaps, the goats huff in their sleep, and the mother sings. Sofma, Litli Rafton Min, Shorin Sefer, Baturin Binder, Ewan Horfir, Angen Skali. Sleep, my little raven, the sea sleeps, the boat is tied. Odin watches, no harm. Will come. Norse lullabies often invoked raven sacred birds, messengers of gods. But not always with fear. Here, the raven is a protector, a watcher, and the rhythm. Slow, heavy, like oars on still fjords, the lullaby rocks the child like a boat. Because Norse life was a seafaring one, waves were cradles. Ships were wombs of wood and salt. Even sleep became a voyage, and the song, a prayer that the soul would sail gently through the night, returning safely with the dawn dot. So let the cold air curl around your fingers now, not to chill you, but to remind you of the warmth within, the hearth, the home. The lullaby. The sea sleeps. So should you, the salts, songs in the mist now. We move westward across churning seas, to lands of green hills and stones veiled in moss. Ancient Celtic tribes left few written records, but their songs lived on through breath, harp, and memory. Lullabies were passed from mother to daughter, from hearth to hedgerow. Imagine standing in the doorway of a roundhouse, smoke curling from the thatched roof, the scent of peat thick in the air. Inside, the firelight flickers golden across the face of a child cradled in woven wool. The mother sings, not with precision, but with power. Cadle, Moline Beag, the moon walks your dreams, Bridget lights your path, and Fi folk dance unseen. Celtic lullabies, like their mythology, were tangled with the natural and the supernatural. Sleep was not just slumber, it was entrance into a spirit world, a liminal space where the veil was thin. Brigid, the goddess of hearth and healing, was often called upon in lullabies. Brigid, keep my child from fear. Wrap her in your cloak so dear. Even the Shiva fair folk were both feared and honored in song. Lullabies might include gentle warnings. Do not stray, my child of fire, or Fi may take you ever higher. Sleep here safe in mother's hand, not beyond the thorny land. Imagine it. A lullaby that whispers both love and boundary. A song that opens the door to dreams and bars the one to danger. And even now, as you lie here listening, perhaps you feel a flicker of something old, a voice from the hills, carried in mist and dew. Rest, child. You are not lost in time. Time has found you. Europe's forgotten corners, Alpine lullabies and Baltic. Songs further still we drift into the Alps, into the Baltic, into villages once lit only by oil lamp and snow's reflection. In Alpine communities, where avalanches could sweep away a village overnight, lullabies were sung not just to children, but to mountains. Shalaf, Mainkind, Derberg Hertzu, Schneefold Lies still include. Sleep, my child, the mountain hears, snow falls softly. Wise with years, there's a tenderness to these lullabies, but also a sense of awe. Of surrender. And in the Baltic lands, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania lullabies often invoke the sun goddess Sol. Her golden chariot crossed the sky each day, and at night her light slept in lakes. A lullaby might go. So Ludo, shine on dreams. Carry my child in golden beams. Lay her down in bed of light. Wake her softly come the night. It's music not just to soothe, but to trust that the sun, or the mountain, or the gods themselves will keep watch through the night. And if they do, so can you. The circle closes. Softly now, the journey slows. Your breath is slower. Your limbs heavier. But your spirit is floating, held. In the songs of 100 lands, you've crossed deserts, forests, seas, and stars. You've heard the first lullabies, some sung to gods, others to trees, some to children never named in history. And what did they all have in common? Love, a voice, a rhythm, a promise. Even in the darkest corners of time, someone was singing. Someone cared enough to hum. And tonight, that hum lives in you. So close your eyes again. Not tightly. Just enough. Let the melody carry you now. You've learned the lullabies of the world, and they remember you. Before there were villages, before there were gods, before even language itself could draw meaning from breath, there was fear. And where there is fear, there must also be comfort. This chapter begins not in any one place, but in a feeling, the soft tremor of a mother's hand as she gathers her child in the dark. Her body, chilled by the evening air, curls around the tiny warmth in her arms. And without even thinking, her chest vibrates. A sound, not a song. Not yet, just a hum. A vibration, a signal to the child, and perhaps to the night itself. We're still here. We're safe. We will survive, and that is where lullabies were born, not in poetry or performance, but in the most primal of all human needs, to soothe. To shield. Too. Stay alive. The first sound was not for beauty, but for protection. Imagine a better world before firelight could push back the dark. A world where every night was full of teeth, wolves, big cats, slithering things, snapping jaws, sudden cold. Infants did not cry into silence. They cried into a world that listened, a world that responded. A crying baby might draw the wrong. Ears. So what did the mother do? She rocked. She shushed. She whispered. Her voice a rhythm. Her breath a beat. Repetition became a defense. Softness became a shield. Anthropologists believed the first cradle songs weren't sweet, melodic tunes, they were vocalized rhythms. Not sung to the child, but sung around the child. Not performance, but protection. Picture it now. A Neanderthal woman in a shallow rock shelter, her back to the wind, her hands smeared with ochre and ash. A baby fusses. The night howls with wind and hunger. She rocks gently. Her throat hums with a repetitive, breath-bound pattern. No lyrics, just vibration. The sound might blend with the crackle of fire, the rustle of leaves, the steady rhythm of her own heartbeat forming a sonic cocoon. A lullaby. The child quiets, not because the song is pretty, but because it is familiar. The same pattern the mother may have used during labor, during feeding, during sleep. It is the oldest kind of memory, not sight, not scent, but rhythm. And it tells the infant brain, you are not alone. The brain responds. Before it understands, even modern neuroscience tells us that rhythm predates cognition. A baby's brain does not require meaning to feel comforted. It needs consistency, repetition, soft variation within a safe pattern. These are the ingredients of the first lullabies, whether hummed, tapped, or rocked. In fact, studies on premature infants and neonatal intensive care units show that gentle, rhythmic humming, especially in the mother's voice, has measurable effects. Slowed heart rate, stabilized breathing, improved sleep duration, reduced cortisol levels. Long before humans wrote anything down, they had already mastered the power of soothing through sound. It was an inherited wisdom passed not in words, but in actions repeated across millennia. Even now, when you hum to yourself in moments of stress, you are touching something ancient, something buried so deep in your biology that it has no name. Sound of safety, a sound of home. From predator avoidance to sleep induction. Let us drift now deeper into prehistory. We often think of lullabies as soft, dreamy, that their origin was sometimes filled with urgency. Consider this. A crying baby in a world of silence was not just inconvenient, it was dangerous. Before secure homes, before fences or steel, a baby's cry could travel far. Predators didn't need sight, they needed sound. And infant cries are specifically designed to be piercing, to cut through noise, to summon help. But in the wrong moment, they summon danger. Thus, lullabies evolved not only as a sleep aid, but as a tool of camouflage. A way to mask the frequency of infant distress with something smoother, lower, less alarming. A rhythmic hum could soften the edges of a wail. A repeated shushing could create a soundscape that fooled the wild. The mother's voice became a shelter, a tent of breath. And over time, as the threats became fewer and societies grew more secure, this protective function softened too. The lullaby slowly transformed from survival mechanism to sacred ritual. Ancient cultures embedded purpose in their songs. Let us step lightly now into early civilizations. In Sumer and Akkad, we see lullabies in cuneiform tablets not just as pretty poems, but as protective prayers. Sleep, little one. Do not weep. The river is calm. The god watches. The jackals sleep. The stars hold still. Each line reassures not just the child, but the parent. In ancient Egypt, lullabies often named protective deities. Bastet, the cat goddess, was a favorite figure in bedtime chants, called upon to guard the infant from disease and evil spirits. Bastet of the moonlight, guard his dreams. Lay your paws upon his chest. Keep the flies away. Keep the demons blind. These songs did more than help a child fall asleep. They made the parent feel less helpless. Because in ancient times, even sleep was uncertain. To close one's eyes was to release control. And so lullabies became tiny rituals, chanted with the same intensity as any temple hymn. They were spells. They were prayers. They were armor made of breath. practical use of sound, physiological lulling. Let's step briefly into science again to remind ourselves this wasn't magic. It was music for the nervous system. Here's what rhythmic lullabies do. Even today, lower heart rate. The slow tempo of a lullaby mimics the maternal heartbeat. The infant recognizes this and entrains their own heart rhythm to match. Regulate. Breathing. The long, drawn-out vowels in lullabies promote slow, deep breathing. Induce theta brainwaves. Repetitive sounds help nudge the brain into theta state, a dreamy, restful pre-sleep mode. Reduce cortisol. The soothing voice of a caregiver directly reduces stress hormone levels, making it easier for the child to release tension. All of this achieved without instruments, without lyrics, without a tune, just rhythm, just sound, just survival. In its softest form, even grown-ups remember. There's something else worth noting. Lullabies weren't only for infants. Across cultures, songs of rest were used for the sick, the dying, soldiers before battle, women during childbirth, elders in their final hours. The lullaby became a shape of care, a wrapping of love around the fragile body in any state of vulnerability. Even today, people in grief often hum without realizing it. That unconscious murmur, that rocking sound, it is the lullaby rising again, returning, not to save us from predators. This time, but from pain, from despair, from isolation, in the end, every lullaby, no matter the language, the land, or the age, says one thing: you are not alone. Let your eyes grow heavier now. We've only just begun chapter 2, and already we've seen how survival birthed rhythm, and how rhythm became the first language of love. In the next part of this chapter, we will explore how specific ancient cultures, from Sumerian and Egyptian to tribal societies deep in the Amazon and sub-Saharan Africa, used rhythmic sound not only to put children to sleep, but to bind them to their people, their gods, and their world. Until then, sleep gently, you are safe. And someone somewhere is still singing. The night is no longer wild. You have crossed the barrier. You're no longer standing beside the campfire with cautious eyes on the dark. You are seated at last in the circle, the one shared by mothers, grandmothers, elders, and watchers of old. You are among those who sang before writing, who soothed before they even spoke. Now listen closely, but not too closely, because what comes next isn't heard in words. It's remembered in the blood. The tribe that sang the forest somewhere in the vast lungs of the world, in the emerald shadow of the Amazon rainforest. There once lived a people who believed that every newborn child carried the memory of their ancestors. The name of the tribe is not important. Some names were never written. Others are whispered only in the folds of leaves and bird calls. What mattered was the voice. When a child was born, they were welcomed not with fanfare, but with song. A lullaby that had no beginning, because it had been sung to every child in the lineage before them. There were no instruments, only breath and the rhythm, a mimicry of the rain. Drip, pause, drip, drip, pause, whisper. The mother would not always sing alone. Sometimes the grandmother would sit nearby and add a second tone lower, more gravelly. The child would lie between the two women, rocked by harmonies from two directions. They believed that this taught the infant not just comfort, but balance. Not just peace, but place. To know who they were. They had to know what they sounded like, not just their own cries, but the music of those who came before. And in that rainforest lullaby, a truth lingered that science would only learn much later. Babies remember sound before they understand language. When the wind speaks your name, let's move now. The leaves part. The night shifts. We cross time and land until we find ourselves beneath a wide blue sky in East Africa, home of some of the earliest known human ancestors. Here, sound served not just to soothe, but to survive in a very different way. A crying, Baby in the open savanna was a beacon dot, so lullabies here weren't just whispered. They were timed out at twilight when predators stirred. Women of the community would take turns carrying the children while humming not lullabies to induce sleep. But to all the senses, these weren't soft songs. They were deliberate. Think of them as code vocalizations that mimicked wind, or bird calls, or rustling brush dot in essence. The lullaby became camouflage dot. It blurred the line between child and environment. Even now, certain lullabies in East African traditions contain mimicked sounds of the savannah. A soft tis 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 k mimics cicadas. A clicking tone paired with hums mimics frogs. A drawn-out vowel bends like a distant jackal's call dot to the ear of the baby. It was music dot to the predator. It was noise without a source. Protection disguised as sound, SCAPE dot sub-Saharan secrets. Lullabies that guide the soul in many parts of sub-Saharan Africa. A lullaby was not just a comfort for the body, but a way to anchor the soul to the body during sleep. Children, it was believed, drifted easily between worlds, the waking and the dreaming, the living and the spirit realm. A lullaby, therefore, became a thread, a line connecting body to spirit, child to family, earth to sky. One such lullaby in the modern Yoruba language holds echoes of this ancestral belief. Omo mi senrio del do go ti. Dum wm oriire ni. My child, sleep peacefully. Your creator watches you. You are a child of good destiny. Note how the song affirms not only safety, but identity. You are not just a baby. You are watched over. You were born with purpose. These weren't just comforting words. They were seeds planted in the child's consciousness before the child even knew how to speak dot in that lullaby with the whole worldview of the culture. That life is spiritual, that sleep is sacred, that ancestry is alive. To sing a lullaby was to weave a child into the fabric of the cosmos. You weren't just helping them sleep. You were telling the world they belong here. Whispers on the steppe. The song that anchored the herd now let us move to the wide grasslands of the Eurasian steppe home of nomads. Herders and wind-sown plains that stretch further than the eye can dream. Here, lullabies took a form you might not expect. They were sung to both children and animals. A Mongolian herder, centuries ago, might sing the same rhythm to his swaddled infant as to the new lamb or goat born that morning. The melody wasn't decorative, it was anchoring, a way of grounding the young into the world's movement. H-U umlaut, U umlaut, U umlaut, who. The vowel sound mimicked the wind. Zuin Sally, Baroon Sally. The east wind, the west wind. These lullabies spoke to a people whose lives were dictated by rhythm of hooves. Seasons, migrations, stars dot to sing was to participate in the rhythm, and to soothe an infant with such rhythm was to introduce them to the dance of survival. Even now, babies born to nomadic families on the steppe are sung to before they are spoken to, because voice comes before vocabulary and song comes before story. The practical rhythm of rocking. Have you noticed, as we've moved across the world, the constant companion of the lullaby has followed us. The rock. Rocking is not just a habit, it's a biological tool. From the gentle sway of a cradle to the shifting hips of a mother pacing in circles, the body becomes a metronome. A study conducted in Geneva found that people who sleep in slowly rocking beds experience faster sleep onset longer. Deep sleep periods increase sleep spindle activity, which improves memory retention. And this is true not just for babies, but for adults. Your body remembers being rocked. From womb to cradle. When combined with lullabies, the effect is multiplied. Imagine a child rocked gently while a voice sings in a rhythm that matches the motion. This is not entertainment. This is biological harmony. A full body lullaby, a shared Dance between two nervous systems. One offering, one receiving, both remembering. The true power of the primal lullaby. Let's slow again now. Let the hum of wind pass across your skin. Even if it's just from the fan in your room. Let the ancient memory rise soft. Rhythmic, distant, but familiar. The primal lullaby was not composed. It was not written down. It wasn't even music. In the way we understand it now. It was a survival whisper. A vibratory reminder. You're safe. You are known. You are not alone. In the next part of this chapter, we will enter the ancient homes of Mesopotamia, early Egypt, and the Indus Valley civilizations where survival gave way to ritual and lullabies transformed from whispers in the dark to carefully crafted invocations passed down by mothers and midwives. Sleep, if you wish. Your heartbeat knows the rhythm, and the song, even now, is still being sung for you. The wild has quieted. The predators push back. The tribe has become a village. The village becomes a city. And in the hush that follows the rise of civilization, the lullaby does not disappear. It changes. What once was a primal hum in the dark becomes a carefully crafted chant, a recorded verse, a prayer on papyrus, a song stitched into memory by scribes and mothers alike. It is here, in the world's first cities, that lullabies stop being merely instinct and become ritual. Sume are the first recorded lullabies. We begin our journey in the land between two rivers. Ancient Sumer. Here, over 4,000 years ago, clay tablets were inscribed with wedge-shaped markings known as cuneiform. Most contained records of grain, of trade, of kings. But tucked between the ledgers were songs. Songs for the gods, songs for work, and most tenderly, songs for children. One of the oldest lullabies ever discovered comes from Sumer. It is addressed not to the child directly, but to the gods who guard the child's sleep. Little one, do not cry. The house is yours. The gods are in their places. The doors are shut. The demons are kept outside. Notice how it works, not through melody, but through reassurance. The house is in order. The divine guardians are awake. The world, though, dangerous, has been handled. The lullaby here is both spiritual and administrative, like a night watch checklist, delivered in soothing rhythm. And just as importantly, it was written down. For the first time in human history, a mother's song became something preserved. Something to be passed beyond memory. The lullaby, once transient and living only in the air, now had permanence. Babylon and Assyria, protection against the unseen. As Mesopotamian culture evolved, so too did their lullabies. In Babylon and Assyria, there was deep fear of Lilichu, female demons believed to harm infants in their sleep. To guard against them, lullabies became magical charms. Sleep now, my child, under the eye of Aa. Sleep now, my child, where winds may not whisper. Sleep now, my child, with a seal at your door. These were not metaphorical lyrics. Parents believed that singing these lines, especially when combined with ritual oils or amulets, could keep evil spirits at bay. So what was a lullaby now? Not only a song, not only a prayer, but a word. A spell woven in softness, sung with a hand. On the infant's chest and eyes, scanning the corners of the darkened room, the primal need for safety hadn't changed. But the tools had become more organized, more intentional, more mythic. Even in a civilization of grand architecture and powerful kings, a baby's cry still stirred the deepest fears, and a lullaby remained the answer. Egypt, lullabies as offerings. To the divine now, we sail south, down the winding Nile, to the golden lands of ancient Egypt, a place where sound, word, and ritual were intertwined like river reeds. Here, the birth of a child was not merely a family event, it was a cosmic one. And lullabies reflected that scale. They were often structured around the protection of divine mothers, especially Isis and Hathor, goddesses of motherhood, magic, and healing. A reconstructed lullaby from an ancient priestess reads, "Sleep, child of Ra, sleep, son of light. Isis wraps you in stars. Hathor holds your breath like milk." Again, we see the merging of protection, divinity, physical comfort. To be sung to sleep was to be swaddled not only in fabric, but in myth. Egyptians believed that words had Heka power. Uttered correctly, a phrase could alter reality. So when a mother sang, she wasn't merely entertaining or soothing, she was commanding peace into being. Even now, as you lie here in modern silence, you might feel that old power, soft but firm, sleep. Child of Ra, the river still flows, the stars still burn, and someone still sings. The Indus Valley, lullabies in the lost tonguelet. Us now shift eastward to the mysterious cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. The Indus Valley civilization, highly advanced, yet still largely unreadable. Their script, carved into seals and pottery, has never been fully deciphered. But we do know this: they built with mathematical precision, had running water, and lived with surprising sanitation for their time. What then of their lullabies? Without translatable texts, we turn to ethnomusicology, the study of present-day traditions that may have preserved echoes of ancient practices. In parts of modern-day Sindh and Punjab, lullabies still follow certain melodic contours and ritual. Phrasing believed to be thousands of years old. One such song still sung today goes, "Nindia Rani Ayari, Terry Lai Palkin Main Jula Benaya Hai. Sleep queen, come to me. I've made a cradle of my eyelashes just for you." Even if this exact phrasing isn't ancient, the structure is: a named spirit in India Rani, the sleep queen is invited, the cradle is poetic, the gesture is symbolic, and the rhythm is hypnotic. This is no accident. It may trace back to a time when lullabies were invocations, not only to calm the child, but to coax sleep itself into entering the home. Imagine believing that sleep was a being, that it could be, seduced with kindness, that your song could invite it in, gently. Even now, your breath may be slowing. Even now, you may feel her approaching. Nindia Rani, the queen of rest, let her in. China, the woven threads of sleep next. We drift into the heart of ancient China, home to one of the most continuous civilizations in history. Here, lullabies were seen not only as soothing, but as the first instruction in virtue. A traditional lullaby might contain simple moral lessons encoded in metaphor. Sleep, my little jade. The dragon does not wake. Do not grasp with open hands. Be still, be bright, be water. The child was taught serenity through softness, harmony through sound. Even the instruments used to lull were chosen with kerchin zithers, wind chimes, softly plucked strings. The tones aligned with the 5 elements of Taoist thought: wood, fire, earth, metal, water. To sing to a child was to tune them. To attune them. To their own body, to their ancestors, to the Tao. There was no separation between sound and soul. Sleep was a return, a melting into balance. And the lullaby, a bridge. Even now, that bridge remains. Every breath you take carries you closer to it. From survival to ceremony. So, what have we seen? We began in caves and forests, where the lullaby was camouflage rhythm, a shield, hum as heartbeat. We moved into cities, where lullabies became prayers, charms, poetic rites, and through every transformation, the purpose stayed the same: to protect, to comfort, to guide. Sleep is not merely rest. It is vulnerability. It is surrender. And the lullaby has always been the hand held out in the dark. Close your eyes now. Let the gods of old cradle your thoughts. Let the prayers of Sumer, the whispers of Egypt, the sleep queens and dragons and gentle winds all find you again. You are not alone in your dreams. You are in a lineage of sleep, and the song still plays. Let us begin not in a place, but in a silence, a deep and ancient hush that exists before any song, before any word. Into that silence, voices from every corner of the world have poured their lullabies, each different in rhythm and tongue, yet so strangely familiar, dot, as if they all came from the same first hum, dot, as if the first lullaby, sung thousands of years ago in the dark, still echoes in every soft cradle song we know. Tonight we listen for that echo. Japan, the lullaby of rice. Fields, our journey begins in the east. Imagine the old villages of Japan long before modern cities rose. Fields of green rice paddies stretch into the mist. A mother kneels by a bamboo cradle, one hand stirring a pot, the other gently rocking the child. Her voice is soft, almost like the wind through reeds. Nen kororio, okororio. These words are part of one of Japan's most famous traditional lullabies, Edo lullaby. They mean little on the surface, just a repetition of soothing syllables. But that's the point. The magic is not in meaning, dot, it's in sound. The Japanese lullaby often follows a pentatonic scale, a five-note structure that mirrors the tones of ancient Japanese instruments, like the koto and the shakuhachi flute, dot, simple, repetitive, mesmerizing. These lullabies didn't just soothe babies. They soothed mothers, too many of whom were burdened with hard agricultural labor. As they worked, the lullaby followed them like a thread, woven between water, sky, and rice, and often these songs were tinged with loneliness. A mother singing to her child while her husband worked far away, or while enduring hardship. If the baby cries, I'll go to buy some candy, but I have no money. Even here, in the gentlest of songs, struggle hums beneath the surface, but always, the voice keeps singing, because that, too, is love. The Andes. Quechua lullabies in mountain rhythms. Now we rise upward into the Andes Mountains of South America. The air is thin. The stars feel closer. The land seems carved by the gods. Here, long before colonial conquest, the Quechua people sang lullabies that wove together nature, ancestry, and myth. A Quechua mother, wrapped in woven textiles dyed with natural pigments, might sing to her baby while harvesting potatoes. The child is bound on her back in a manta cloth, heart against heart. Wawa wawa kwishraniki, mama kani laki manachu. Baby, baby, my little flower, your mama is here. There is no need for sorrow. The rhythm is not soft like a breeze, it is earthy. It echoes the footsteps over stone, the crunch of dry grass, the beat of a drum carved from a single tree. And always, the mountain spirits are present. These lullabies call to Apis, sacred mountain deities, asking them to watch over the child. Apu mama, apu teta, wawa chaman kwaidekai. Mountain mother, mountain father, protect this child. Even today, in highland villages, these lullabies are still sung. They're old. Older than empires, but the song survives because the child still needs to sleep and someone still sings. Australia. Song lines in the Dreamtime moon now drift to a land older than memory. Australia. The Aboriginal peoples of this continent have preserved one of the most profound relationships between sound, land, and sleep. Here, lullabies are not just for comfort. They are part of a spiritual map song lines that connect every part of the land to its people and stories. To sing is to remember. To sing is to belong. Imagine a mother from the Yolku people of Arnhem Land sitting beside a small fire. Her child is wrapped in possum skin, the stars wheeling overhead. The song she sings is not invented, it is inherited. Jamarkli marchi waga gina dia gina gina. The child walks to country. Peacefully, peacefully, these lullabies don't just soothe, they teach. They embed the land's features, the animal's movements, the spirit's pathways into the child's subconscious. Every phrase is a memory. Every melody is a map dot, and the repetition. It mimics the dreaming, the sacred time before time when ancestral beings sang the world into being dot. So when a baby is sung to sleep here, they aren't just falling into rest, they are being sung into existence. The Middle East, Hebrew and Arabic cradle songs now let us float over deserts, over domed cities and cracked earth, over olive groves and clay ovens, over lullabies shaped by exile, prayer, and poetry dot in the Hebrew tradition. Ancient lullabies were often sung by candlelight on the Sabbath. The melodies were minor, the words filled with blessings. One such lullaby is Rosenk's Smut Mandolin, Raisins and Almonds, though Yiddish it echoes older roots. In der Yedelis Vijel steht Aladel Zingendik. In the cradle of the little Jew there stands a song, singing. This is no mere sweet tune dotted as a shield against sorrow, a reminder of identity in the face of displacement, a whispered vow of continuity dot in Arabic-speaking cultures. Lullabies are often poetic, sung in the mother's dialect, full of desert imagery and devotion. Nami Nami Ya Kabibi, Al-Kamar Yashri Alaik. Sleep, sleep, my darling. The moon watches over you. Here again, we see the same elements, repetition nature as comfort, a divine or cosmic presence, assurance that the child is not alone. These lullabies have survived wars, migration, and centuries of change, and still they rise on the breath of a mother, or a grandmother, or an older sister, because sometimes singing is the only power you have, and it is enough. The Inuit. Singing between ice and silence, let us now follow the northern winds into the Arctic Circle, into the homes of the Inuit, where snow stacks like silence and the world glows blue. Here, lullabies often take a form unfamiliar to most cultures. They are throat songs, a duet between two women, sometimes a mother and a relative, creating layered, rhythmic sounds that mimic nature itself. The crackle of ice, the flapping of wings, the breathing of animals. Katajek, the sound is not lyrical dot, it's textural, not meant to lull in melody, but to hypnotize through pattern. Even babies wrapped in fur and held close respond with stillness. Their bodies recognize the rhythm. Their nervous systems slow dot because, once again, the rhythm is older than the melody dot, older than language, older than fear. The shared threads pause with me now. We've traveled across oceans and mountains, across stone and snow, and still, what do we find in every lullaby? Repetition, nature, protection, memory, simplicity, and love dot. It doesn't matter whether the child sleeps in a hut, a tent, a cradle, a sling, a high-rise, a palace, or a cave. The song is always there, a voice whispering, I see you, I will hold you. You are not alone. You may sleep, and even now, in your room, in your mind, the same lullaby hums beneath the surface, not in words, but in rhythm, and breath, and stillness. Close your eyes. Not because you must, but because the world is still singing, and you. You're part of that song now. You always have been. Let the dust settle. Let the torches flicker low. We begin in silence once again this time. Not a primal silence, but an archaeological one. Picture it, a cracked clay tablet, a hollowed bone flute buried in mud, a mural, faded by time, showing up. Mother's open mouth beside a cradle. These are the scattered bones of a lullaby, and from these bones, we try to sing again the lost songs of Sumer. Finding music in clay, let's return to Sumer, where written history first began. Among the thousands of cuneiform tablets unearthed from Ur, Nippur, and Eridu, a few hold not just words, but notations, kind of early musical script. These markings weren't like modern sheet music. Instead, they were instructional formulas, which strings to pluck on a lyre, which rhythms to use during a ritual, how to accompany a spoken prayer. From these fragments, scholars have reconstructed melodies that may have once accompanied Sumerian lullabies. Here's what they found. The Sumerian lyre, a wooden frame strung with gut or sinew, was a soft instrument, its tones warm, muffled, perfect for indoor play. The scales were pentatonic or heptatonic, meaning 5 or 7. Notes. The tempo was slow, steady, often matching the cadence of a spoken blessing. Reconstructionists at the Oriental Institute and the British Museum have attempted to play these lullabies. Using replicas of ancient instruments, the result? A melody that hovers somewhere between chant and hum, simple, circular, like breath. Played softly, pluck, pause, pluck, hum, pluck, pause. The lullaby, even reconstructed, doesn't leap or dance. It rocks, it circles. It raps, because that's what the ancient world needed from a song. Not excitement, but safety. Egyptian instruments of rest. The lullaby is ritual now. Imagine a small chamber in Thebes. A priestess stands at the edge of a low cradle woven from reeds. She lifts a gentle hand, holding a sistrum, a sacred rattle made of bronze and metal rods that jingle when shaken. This was no mere toy in ancient Egypt. The sistrum was associated with Hathor, goddess of motherhood, fertility, and joy. It was used in ceremonies to banish evil spirits, invite good fortune, and, yes, to soothe infants, but it wasn't just shaken randomly. The rhythm was deliberate. 3 shakes, pause. 3 shakes, pause. This mimicked the heartbeat. And nearby, a harpist plucked soft chords, early versions of Egyptian lullabies. Sleep in. The arms have met. Let the sky hold you. The day is ended. The crocodile sleeps. The hawk closes its eyes. Modern reconstructions based on tomb art and instrument remnants suggest these lullabies had descending scales, falling notes that mimic the act of drifting downward. Musicologists have created speculative recordings using reconstructed harps and flutes. The result? The sound of air moving over still water. No drama. Only descent. Only release. Chinese lullabies in ancient tones from the riverbanks of the Nile. We travel east again across deserts and mountains to early China. Here, lullabies were often performed with accompaniment from the guqin, an ancient zither with a soft, melodic tone. Reserved for scholars and sages. The oldest known guqin music has been preserved in manuscripts dating back to the 3rd century BCE, but much older melodies likely existed passed orally, used in homes, lost to time. What researchers have found, however, is a tonal pattern. Chinese lullabies, even now, tend to rely on the gong, do, and zi. So note soft, round, open sounds. These tones correspond to earth and metal in the traditional 5-element philosophy, elements associated with nourishment and rest. Modern performers, using ancient tuning systems and silk-stringed guqins, have recreated what lullabies might have sounded like under the Han Dynasty. A typical lullaby might be structured like this. Open chord, gong, representing the earth. The home, 3 falling tones, mimicking dusk or the setting sun. Repetition, building comfort and familiarity. The words, often naturalistic. The plum tree rests. The moon climbs the hill. Close your petals, little one. The melodies are sparse, almost skeletal, but that's the point. The emptiness in the music gives room for the child's breath, the parents. Whisper, the sound of evening cicadas outside. Music in ancient China was a way of balancing the cosmos, not showing skill. And lullabies reflected that balance. The cave songs of the Sami, wind, voice, and memory. Far to the north, past forests and fjords, we find the Sami, an indigenous people of the Arctic Circle, spanning modern-day Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. Among them, Music took a form called joik, a unique vocal tradition without lyrics, rhythm, or defined melody. Instead, it was pure emotion, shaped into sound. A Sami lullaby might not sound like a lullaby at all. It might sound like wind, or water, or the flicker of flame, but that is the lullaby. Parents would joik their child's essence, not sing about the child, but sing the child itself. A-I-O, ahoy, ai-ai, ioloi. Repeated, varied, like breathing, like snow drifting. No two joiks were the same, and none were written down, but they were remembered passed from grandmothers to daughters, fathers to sons, across ice and time. Modern Sami musicians, working with elders and linguists, have revived these lullabies, recreating their fluid forms for modern recordings. They do not feel ancient. They feel eternal. As if they were always here, waiting, reconstructed. Instruments, ancient sounds, new life. To revive a lullaby, you often need more than a melody. You need the instrument that shaped it. Across the world, archaeologists have uncovered tools of sound that whisper hints about the songs once played. Bone flutes from Central Europe, over 40,000 years old. Shell trumpets from South America, gourd rattles used in West African rituals, ocarinas shaped like birds, found in Mesoamerican tombs, panpipes from the Andes, frame drums etched with moon patterns from the Levant. By replicating these instruments, musicians have guessed at the lullabies they might have played. The result: a haunting symphony of imagined songs, each crafted not for concert halls, but for cradles. What all these reconstructions reveal, even without knowing the exact notes, even without deciphering every word, we can still feel the intention of these ancient songs: to wrap, to protect, to soften, to connect. A lullaby, even when broken and half lost, still carries its power, because melody is memory, even when fractured, even when forgotten. The mother's voice remains. Close your eyes now. Can you hear them? The breath over a reed flute, the rhythm of fingers on hide, the hush between notes that says, you are not alone. In the next part of this chapter, we'll explore the universal imagery of lullabies across time and space, how the moon, stars, birds, and water appear in nearly every culture's cradle songs, regardless of language. And we'll begin to ask, why? Why do humans always sing of the sky? Why is the sea always gentle in these songs? Why do lullabies speak to the child? And the cosmos? Sleep if you like. You already know the rhythm. It's been with you since before birth, and it is still singing. There is a moment in every lullaby when the world changes shape. The room disappears. The roof becomes sky. The cradle becomes a boat. The child is no longer just a baby, but a traveler on a gentle journey, through night, through dream, through time. And in this journey, we find certain images again and again, as if they are ancient signposts passed from voice to voice over thousands of years. Let us visit them now, not all at once, just one by one. Softly. The moon, the ever-watching guardian. Let us begin with the moon. In nearly every culture's lullabies, the moon appears not as a rock in space, but as a companion, a witness, a guardian. In Turkish lullabies, Adid, Jalbenimul, Bebegimi, Algider Nini, Moon Grandpa, come with me, take my baby to dreamland. In Russian, Bayu Bayu, Pasha Bayu, Neva Zisia Nakrayu, Pridyat Serenkaya Volchok, Ayu Grabyet Tebia Podbok. Go to sleep, lie not on the edge, or the little gray wolf will come and take you. Even in darker lullabies like this, the moon is present, not always named, but glowing, watching. In Hindi, Chanda Mama Dorka, Poi Pike Borka. Uncle. Moon comes from far away, bringing sweet treats on his tray. Why is the moon always invited? Perhaps because the moon is always gentle, never blinding, never burning. Just there. High above, soft, reassuring dot, and always cyclical it. Disappears, but always returns. A perfect metaphor for sleep dot and for mothers. Perhaps the moon was a silent co-parent, watching the child through the night when the human eye could no longer. Stay open dot, so we sang of it dot to bring it closer dot to ask it to keep watch, and it still does, even now. Through your window, even as you read these words, stars, eyes of ancestors, now let us shift our gaze, slightly dash higher dot to the stars. They, too, appear in lullabies across the earth, but they are not just decorations in the sky. They are souls dot and ancient. African traditions, the stars were often seen as ancestors watching over the living. Among the Zulu, Nyanga Iflo, Izinkanyazizi Akanya. The moon is gone, the stars are shining. They are not just lights, they are presences dot in Navajo lullabies. Stars are part of the land's sacred geometry. Each constellation aligns with animal spirits, seasons, or sacred mountains. A lullaby might go, sleep beneath Spider-Woman's web, the stars stitched just for you. In Chinese cradle songs, stars are placed in the sky by ancient mothers. Zhao Xing Xing, Liang Jing Jing, Mantin Do Shi Zhao Yan Jing. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, all the sky is full of little eyes. Do you see? They're not just stars, they're watchers guides tiny lights, promising that no child is ever truly alone, even now. If you've ever stared into the night sky and felt comforted, you're participating in the oldest lullaby of all dot, the one written in light, birds, messengers between. Realms now. Gently, we descend from sky to tree, and there, in the branches, we find birds dot in lullabies. Birds often carry messages from parent to child, from earth to sky. From the known to the mysterious dot in Celtic traditions, blackbirds and larks sing the last songs of the day. In Welsh, Huna Blinton air Feynman's Clitichens Edihan. Sleep, my child, on my bosom. Warm and tender is this place. Though no birds are named here, the rhythm of the song mimics birdsong short, chirping tones in the verses rising and falling like a robin's evening call dot in Korea. Magpies appear in many lullabies and children's songs. A popular folk tune, Gukjia Gukjia Hanyul Yul Manan Caesaram. Bird, bird, the one who flies to the sky. In many Asian cultures, the crane is a sacred symbol of long life and peace. Children are sung to with dreams of birds carrying their wishes. Why birds? Perhaps because birds are both grounded and free. They are small like children, but they can fly like dreams. A lullaby that mentions birds says, you may be small now, but you will fly one day. And that is the gentlest promise a parent can give. Water, the first cradle next. We move to the most primal metaphor of all koan water dot nearly. Every culture, at some point, uses the metaphor of floating, drifting, or rowing in lullabies dot in the Caribbean. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. A simple English lullaby, but versions of this exist in multiple languages, with canoes, with cradles that rock like boats dot in parts of the Philippines. Lullabies like Ili Ili Tulag Ane speak of rivers and streams carrying the child to sleep. Ili Ili Tulag Ane Wala Deri Aimo Nene. Sleep, sleep for a while, mother isn't here right now. The water is both gentle and honest dot, it says, you are alone for a moment. But the current is kind. It will carry you dot in Polynesian chants. The ocean is sacred, rhythmic, eternal. Lullabies mimic the lapping of waves. And why wouldn't they? We are made of water dot. We were carried in water before we were born. The cradle, the womb, the sea, they are all the same in the child's body dot. So to sing of water is to say, you are safe in the current. You are held. You are floating. And soon you'll sleep. Darkness, not fear, but a blanket. And finally, let us talk about the dark. Many modern songs try to banish it, but ancient lullabies, they often welcomed it. not as an enemy, but as a blanket dot. In West African lullabies, night is referred to as a mother, soft, warm, endless. Oru lojo ibi timo bimo, aule omo ngun. The night was the place I gave birth. The night is where my child grows. In Scandinavian songs, darkness is not feared, it is respected. Sov du lillivedung, den eskar det vinter. Sleep, you little willow, it's still winter. The dark is not punishment, dot, it is pause, dot, it is the cocoon before the butterfly, dot, it is the silence before the song, dot. So why these symbols? Because the moon is steady, the stars are watching. The birds promise flight, the water reminds us we are always held, and the darkness is never empty. The ancient world didn't just sing these symbols for poetry. They sang them because they worked, because the child's body, even before language, responded dot to rhythm, dot to pattern, dot to metaphor, dot even today. Studies show that lullabies with imagery, even if the child can't understand them, activate areas of the brain linked to security, imagination, and emotional bonding. Don't just sing to calm the child. We sing to welcome them to the world, and the world, as we present it in lullabies, is soft, bright, flowing, kind, warm dot, so sleep now. Surrounded by the same images that comforted millions before you. The moon watches, the stars blink, a bird wrestles softly in a nearby tree. Water flows beneath your cradle. The night wraps you in a silent shawl, and the song continues. Even if your ears cannot hear it, your body does dot, your dreams do. Your ancestors did dot, and someone, somewhere, is still singing it dot just for you. The child is still, the night is deep. The stars blink their slow language overhead, and yet the mother's voice continues, not to soothe the baby anymore, but perhaps to soothe herself. This is the quiet transformation of the lullaby dotted. Begins as a utility dot and ends as a kind of therapy. The confessional. Lullaby. Sorrow beneath the surface, it's a strange paradox. The songs we sing to help a child sleep often carry grief. Exhaustion, even loneliness. Why? Because the child cannot yet understand words. And so the lullaby becomes a rare space safe, unguarded, unguessed, where the singer may say anything. Let us return to a Turkish lullaby, sung for generations. Dandini dandini destana denalar gurmix bastana kaf bastang denai yemasan lahane. On the surface, it's nonsense, rhythmic, playful, full of pastoral imagery. But in the next verse, a subtle ache. Yukuda Yavram, Yusin Dabayasan, Anasi Jorgen, Saba Erkenden Kauksen. My child is sleeping, may he grow while he sleeps. His mother is tired, she must rise early again. It's not a complaint, just a truth dot sung softly into the darkness dot here. The lullaby is not only for the baby's dreams, but the mother's endurance. Storytelling lullabies, teaching through melody in many parts of the world. Lullabies began to merge with folklore. They weren't just melodies, they were myths, disguised as songs dot in northern India. Mothers sang of Chandamama, Uncle Moon, who rides a bullock cart and brings sweets from afar. Chanda mama dor ke poi pake bor ke ap ke thali main man ke o dipuli main. Moon Uncle comes from far, he cooks sweets from jaggery. He eats from a plate but gives the child just a bowl. Why tell this story? Because even in the arms of love, the world is unfair. Because life, even at its gentlest, is full of contradictions. And so the lullaby teaches, not with fear, but with fables that the child does not yet know injustice, but the melody prepares them. Cradle songs as protest, quiet resistance in times of oppression. Lullabies became weapons, soft ones, but powerful in 19th century Serbia. Under Ottoman occupation, a lullaby emerged. Nini sign, Data Maika Narani, Kada Porestes, Turk da Potamani. Sleep, my son, so mother may feed you. When you grow, may you drive the Turks away. Not just a wish, a prophecy. Here, the child is not only a baby, but a future hero. The lullaby isn't just calming, it's preparing. The singer isn't only soothing, she's resisting, even now, in conflict zones across the world. Similar songs exist, because when the world outside is cruel, the lullaby becomes a kind of gentle rebellion, a promise whispered into the cradle. You will live. You will grow. You will make it better. Love, loss, and the one-way conversation sometimes. The lullaby becomes a way to grieve for things unspoken, for losses never acknowledged. For fears buried under daily life. In Armenian tradition, some lullabies speak to children lost too early. They're still sung, not because the baby is present, but because the love still is. Or Sasani, sleep, my little one. There is no baby, only a name, only an echo, but the lullaby continues because singing is how memory survives, because grief, when shaped into melody, becomes something sacred. Father's lullabies, a rare window though, lullabies are most often sung by mothers. Fathers too have quietly left their mark. In medieval Japan, samurai fathers would sometimes sing deathbed lullabies to their children if they were about to leave for battle, knowing they might not return. One such chant, Hana, Wachiru, Yuru wa Fukaku, Kodomo wa Yum no Naka I. The flower falls, the night is deep, and the child drifts into dreams. There's no assurance here. No promises, just a quiet letting go. But still there is peace, even in farewell, even in fear. The lullaby as anchor, so what then is the lullaby? Once it begins to carry such weight, it becomes something deeper, a rope tied between past and future. A confession chamber made of melody, a sacred room where no one interrupts. A letter written by the soul and delivered by breath. Even the word. Lullaby in English is thought to come from Lulu, a soothing sound. And bye-bye, farewell. It's a song of letting go of wakefulness, letting go of fear, sometimes letting go of a loved one altogether, and yet always holding on. In the stillness. So tonight, as you rest, remember, somewhere in the past, someone sang a lullaby not to lull their baby, but to hold themselves together. And it worked. The rhythm helped. The melody helped. The repetition helped. It always does. Even now, even here. Close your eyes and let's return for a moment to the ancient world. Before science. Before bedtime routines. Before electric lights and rocking chairs and recorded music. When every parent looked at a sleeping child and felt the same unspoken question, who will protect them when I cannot? And so they turned to the only answer they had, the divine. Lullabies as prayers, the oldest invocation in ancient Mesopotamia. Mothers sang to Inanna, goddess of love and war, asking her to cradle the child in her celestial arms. Some surviving lullabies, written in cuneiform, read like blessings. May Inanna's light protect you. May her stars dance above your dreams. May you be unseen by evil spirits. These weren't lullabies in the modern sense. They were incantations, soon. Not just for sleep, but for protection against sickness, curses, demons. And always, the song stood between the child and the unknown, because to sing was to shield. The Vedic lullabies, hymns of the eternal in. The Vedic tradition of ancient India texts, written more than 3,000 years ago, cradle songs, were often indistinguishable from mantras. They were not lullabies about sleep. They were lullabies about reality. About the universe itself. One Vedic hymn speaks to Ugni, the fire god, asking him to preserve the child's inner flame. Another, from the Atharva Veda, asks the earth to cradle the infant as the mother sleeps. O earth, hold him gently. He is your child too. Rock him with your roots. Warm him with your breath. Notice the tone. There's no baby talk. No rhyme. Just cosmic reverence. In the Vedic worldview, all beings were part of the same divine rhythm. And so the lullaby became a kind of cosmic reminder. This child is not yours alone. He belongs to the order of things. To the song of the world. Greek lullabies. Echoes of the gods in ancient Greece, mothers sometimes sang songs invoking Hypnos, the god of sleep. One fragment found in a papyrus near Thebes reads, Hypnos, come with your wings of dusk. Let no nightmare enter. Close the child's eyes as you close the rose. Even the metaphor sleep as a flower folding shut reminds us how nature and the divine were fused. But the lullaby went deeper. Because in Greek thought, myth and sleep were neighbors, sleep and death were twin brothers. Dreams were messages from gods, and children, being newly arrived from mystery, still carried the scent of Olympus. So lullabies weren't just comforting sounds. They were guides. Sung to keep the child close to earth. To remind them to stay here, not drift too far back into the divine. Hebrew lullabies. The breath of Godin, early Jewish tradition. Lullabies often referenced angels, blessings, and the deep breath of God Ruach, the spirit that hovered over the waters of creation. A traditional lullaby still sung today. Basa Atova Shaina Yara Elohim Yishmer Odhach. May your sleep be blessed. May God protect you. Lullabies were sung on Shabbat under the soft flicker of candles. The flame, the voice, the breath, all sacred. And always. There was the sense that to sing to a child was to repeat creation itself. In Jewish mysticism, every spoken word reshapes reality. So a lullaby, whispered into a child's ear, could create light inside darkness. Even now, many Hebrew cradle songs include the names of angels. Michael on your right, Gabriel on your left, Uriel before you, Raphael behind you. A lullaby becomes a circle of wings, and the child sleeps within it. Early Christian cradle songs, divine tenderness and early Christianity. Lullabies blended Roman folk melodies with new religious meanings. There is a medieval Latin hymn, Lullae, my king, addressed to the infant Christ. But it became, over centuries, a song sung to all children, a way to express divine love in human voice. Lullae, mine own dear child, born of Mary mild, thou shalt be king of bliss. Even if the child was not divine, the song treated them as such. In doing so, taught the singer humility, awe, and patience. To sing a lullaby was to participate in the miracle of birth, of incarnation of love made flesh. And perhaps that's what made it holy. Indigenous lullabies, spirits in the wind. Among indigenous cultures of the Americas, lullabies often served as bridges between the seen and unseen. In Cherokee tradition, the lullaby might call upon the wind spirit, NVDA, to blow gently across the sleeping child's face. In Quechua, the song might invoke Pachamama, the earth mother, to watch over the baby. Pachamama Suninawi Woachepi Kodekai. Mother Earth of long vision, protect this child. There is reverence here, but not of distant gods, of near ones. Lullabies remind the baby that they are surrounded. By ancestors. By animals. By wind. By water. There is no need to fear the dark, because the dark is full, not empty. The philosophy of sleep. Lullabies as metaphysical portals. Perhaps the most profound lullabies are those that do not just speak of dreams, but speak through them. In Taoist-inspired lullabies, the child is reminded that sleep is not an interruption, but a return. To the Tao. To the source. The fish sleeps in the water, the bird sleeps in the wind, the child returns to nothingness and wakes as everything. Do you hear it? It is not about the child's comfort. It is about existence. The lullaby is a reminder that we all float between form and formlessness, that we all, like the baby, are rocked by forces we cannot name, and that sleep is a kind of surrender, but also a kind of truth. Why? These spiritual songs matter because a lullaby is more than music. It is a worldview. Disguised as melody. It tells the child who they are, what the universe is, what it means to rest, what it means to wake, what it means to be safe in something larger than yourself, whether it calls to a god, an ancestor, a mountain, or a silence. The lullaby always says, you are part of this. You are not alone. Even now, when you hear a lullaby, your body remembers. Not just your childhood, but the cosmos that cradled it. So close your eyes now. Let the gods watch. Let the ancestors guard. Let the stars blink slowly above. And know that sleep is not absence. It is a return. To rhythm. To breath. To the soft hum that shaped the world and still shapes you. A mother hums in a New York apartment. A father sings softly in a Tokyo hospital. A grandmother rocks a baby under a rusted tin roof in Lagos. A sibling coos to a crying infant in a refugee camp, and at LEPPO. The surroundings differ, but the song? The song is the same. Not in language. Not in melody, but in spirit. Because what was once sung beneath constellations of fire and gods is still sung beneath mobile nightlights and neon cities. The lullaby did not disappear. It adapted. The unchanging need. Why we still sing Ask a Scientist today. And they'll tell you that lullabies are useful because they regulate the baby's heartbeat. They help establish sleep patterns. They lower cortisol, stress hormone, in both baby and parent. They create emotional bonding. They aid in early language recognition, and all of that is true. But if that were all, lullabies would have died with the invention of pacifiers or white noise machines. They haven't. They persist. Because humans need to feel held, even beyond infancy, even when we grow up, and somewhere deep in our memory, before memory even begins, we associate the hum of a lullaby with safety, belonging, presence that cannot be replaced. Not by devices. Not by silence. Not even by logic. The secret of repetition. A timeless spell if you notice. Lullabies often repeat phrases. Hush, little baby. Don't say a word. Lule, lule, thou little tiny child. Yorin dia tula dado tirit BBV dermir. The repetition is not lazy. It's deliberate. It mimics a heartbeat, a rocking motion, a breathing cycle. It's not music for listening. It's rhythm for being. This is why ancient cradle songs work just as well today. Because your body recognizes them. Not as art. But as environment. The lullaby wraps the baby in something that sounds like inside, like the womb. Like the beginning. And we never forget that sound. Even when we can no longer name it. Modern lullabies, ancient bones, even modern lullabies carry ancient DNA. Consider the popular English song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, How I Wonder What You Are. Stars. Wonder. Distance. This is a lullaby that could have been sung in Babylon, and perhaps was, or the French classic, Fais dodo, colas mon petit frère, sleep now, little brother, rhythmic, repetitive, domestic, even songs from cartoons. And movies, Frozen's All Is Found, Dumbo's Baby Mine, or Coco's Remember Me, Carrie. The emotional signature of ancient cradle songs, not just to make the child sleep. But to make the listener feel less alone, even in a theater, even in old age. Even if the child is grown, lullabies in old age, the circle returns. Here's something you may not know. In dementia care, music therapists often use lullabies to calm elderly patients. Not just because they're simple, but because they bypass language. A woman who can no longer recognize her son may still hum rockabye baby word for word dot y. Because the lullaby is encoded before memory dot, it's the first song we learn. And sometimes the last we remember dot in this way, lullabies, are not just for babies dot, they are for human continuity. They help us arrive and help us leave dot digital cradles. Lullabies in the age of screens today. You can find lullabies everywhere. Spotify playlists curated by neuroscientists, YouTube videos with soft animations and binaural hums, white noise apps with names like Cradle Stream and Sleep Tunes, devices that play the heartbeat of the mother recorded in utero. But all of these are just new cradles for the same old melody, the melody that says, "You're not alone. You are safe. Let go now." Even AI-generated lullabies are being used, now built from machine learning algorithms based on ancient melodies. But when people hear them, they still weep, they still sleep, because intent survives format, and the lullaby, no matter how it's delivered, still does its job. The adult lullaby, reclaiming the cradle here, is a quiet truth. Adults need lullabies too, not just music to sleep to, but songs that slow our thoughts, make the world feel smaller, gentler, remind us of being loved. Even in moments we feel forgotten, and many people, whether they realize it or not, return to lullabies when anxious. A hymn hummed absent-mindedly. In a waiting room, a verse repeated silently during grief. A melody that pops into your mind just before sleep. These are not coincidences. These are the echoes of early lullabies, coming back when we need them most. A song that never ends. There is no final lullaby dot, because as long as humans are born, as long as we love, as long as we fear the dark or the silence or the unknown, we will sing, maybe not always with words, maybe not aloud, maybe just in rhythm, but it will be there dot in the breath, in the sway, in the hum you don't even realize you're making when you hold someone close. The lullaby is older than language dot, it is the thread that weaves safety through the chaos of existence dot. It says, "Sleep, child. The world is not finished, but for now, you are held." And that truly is all any of us need. Final thoughts on now. As this long and winding journey draws to a close, remember this. The first humans ever to hum a lullaby are long gone. Their bones crumbled, their names forgotten, their language extinct, but their song, it is still being sung by you, by your mother, by your grandmother, by someone across the globe tonight who has never heard your name, but knows exactly how to hold a baby in their arms and hum the night into peace. You are part of that dot that long, gentle chain of love. Sleep now, knowing that even silence is a lullaby, and even in the darkest hour, the song continues. So now, let the story fade. Let the melody of history melt into your pillow. The ancient voices are quiet now, but their lullabies still hum in the spaces between your thoughts, in the stillness between your breaths. Tonight, you are not alone. You never were. You carry the cradle songs of thousands, of mothers and fathers, of gods and poets, of stars and wind and memory. Sleep gently now. And when you dream, may you find yourself in a song that never ends,